Appreciate you being here. We have heard a lot, and I know you've heard it too, a lot of back and forth, at least in front of the cameras and in front of the podiums and the microphones, trying to pitch this to the American people, if you will, who to blame. But we're also hearing that at the meeting, Speaker Boehner said, this is the number, the president agreed. Why is that not the end of discussion, in your opinion? Is that your understanding of what happened?
Well, here's the amazing thing is that, you know, let's say we were to cut $61 billion, which is what the Republicans proposed in the House.
Yes, sir.
That's 2% of our spending for next year. And it's, you know, just a very small pittance towards a $1.6 trillion deficit. We've got to do more than even the $61 billion. The Democrat proposal is for about $6 billion for a year. That's about what we borrow in one day. We are headed towards a real debt problem in our country, and I think the American people are ready for us to cut some spending.
But for you right now, for you, sir, if it is a $38 billion in additional cuts, is what we understand the number is, that would get us to that overall number, I think, of maybe $70+ billion for the entire year. But this latest round of cuts, are you okay with that and would take that deal?
Well, the thing is realize that these are cuts in proposed increases in spending. So no cuts, actually. 2011, we will spend more money than we spent in 2010. What I don't want to have happen is that it's an either-or situation. Either we accept one proposal or we shut it down. I've been saying for months now there's an in-between solution. Spend the money that's coming in, pay for interest, pay for Social Security, pay for Medicare, pay our troops, pay our employees. In fact, we have a proposal that's called the Government Shutdown Prevention Bill, which if nothing else gets introduced today, we will introduce this. And what it does, it basically pays all workers at 75% of their normal salary. It's not perfect, but that way you don't shut the government down and you continue to have government going. Now, what we do is we pay congressmen and senators at zero. That way it gives them an incentive to come to the table and figure out a solution.
But again, sir, the deal we keep hearing has, well, at some point was reached, but the number at least that was agreed to in this latest round, can you vote for that? Can you support that?
Well, nobody comes to me with any kind of deal. I'm new enough here that I don't get to hear any deal till it comes to the table. And so far, we haven't had any appropriations bills in Congress from on the Senate side. We've not had a budget. And so far, I've not seen any numbers. I read and watch the news like you do, but nobody's coming to me and saying, here's a deal, will you take it? There's nothing coming forward right now.
All right, do this for me, sir, and do this for our audience. Let's say the government does shut down here in 8 hours and 12 minutes, and a deal is not reached. And you go back home to Kentucky, and you're standing in that grocery line, and one of your constituents says, Senator Paul, the government is shut down. Why? What is your answer to that? Because a lot of people are looking for that answer. Simply, why?
Well, my answer may sound partisan, but I truly believe this. Government will be shutting down because Democrats are refusing to cut spending. Democrats increased spending when they were in charge of the presidency and both branches of the House by $700 billion since 2008. We now spend 25% of our money is spent, 25% of our GDP is spent in Washington. Spending has risen exponentially. We've got to bring spending back down, and that is the only compromise. If we don't do it, we're threatening to go the way of Greece and Portugal and Iceland and Ireland, all these countries that are defaulting on their debt. It could happen even to America. So I would say if government shuts down, it's because government and because the Democrats refuse to cut spending.
Well, how far are you willing to go, sir, personally, for a shutdown, given what we're hearing, that the numbers are so close, and also this idea of Planned Parenthood now playing a role in what the funding they may get, and literally we are talking about a matter of some $75 million to Planned Parenthood from the federal government. So the numbers sound like they can be agreeable, but the ideology may be not. What are you willing to shut down the government over numbers that seem at this point now relatively so small?
I would agree with you that the numbers are so small that they don't even affect the deficit or affect the outcome of whether or not we have a debt crisis or not. But what I would say is that we need to have an alternative that's not shutting down government. I have an alternative, a bill that we've introduced, and it will prevent a shutdown. You just keep spending money, but you spend it at a reduced level, but it gives you a little bit longer to come to a conclusion. It never has made any sense to me that government would shut down precipitously and that we couldn't just have an austerity measure that just goes forward and we spend 75% of the money. That doesn't mean we cut really, it just means everything kind of putters along until we get an agreement rather than shut it down precipitously.
And, sir, I want to ask you, because the Tea Party has, certainly that name has been thrown around, and the role it's possibly playing. I want to ask you about that in a second, but before we get to that, just do you have a problem with the dollar amount in particular that's being talked about going to Planned Parenthood, or do you have a problem with any federal money going to Planned Parenthood?
My main concern is the overall dollar amount that we're not cutting for spending for everything, not one particular program.
But you don't mind federal money going towards Planned Parenthood?
Well, no, I mean, I do have problems with federal money for abortion, but I would tell you that that's not the overriding concern for me. See, I've voted against both the Republican proposal and the Democrat proposal because I think neither one of them tackle the deficit. The deficit's $1.6 trillion, and we're talking about cutting $30 billion or $60 billion. That's 1 or 2% of the problem in 1 year. It's not enough. Neither proposal will really change the trajectory of government. Neither proposal really will keep us from having a debt crisis in our country.
And, sir, some have blamed, last question to you here, the Tea Party. Certainly you play a prominent role with the Tea Party, part of the caucus there as well. The Tea Party, what has the role been? And would this conversation be any different? Some say it would be if Speaker Boehner wouldn't have to answer for some of those Tea Party members that he has. He said maybe this conversation wouldn't be the same. He said it was that extreme element, the way he puts it. So what is the role the Tea Party has played in your estimation?
I'll tell you the role the Tea Party has made, and I think it's been a good one. 2 years ago, you know what the debate would have been up here? How much are we going to increase spending? How much are we going to really go overboard with new programs? Now the debate is over where we're cutting. So we have changed the debate. We even have the president. I think the president wants to join the Tea Party. He says he will veto any bill that has earmarks on it. He's come our direction. The debate is going in our direction. We are winning all the debates on federal spending because the American people know they can't spend more money than they take in, and neither can a government.
Senator Paul, did you just say President Obama wants to join the Tea Party? Was that an invitation?
I think he does, and it's an open invitation. If he wants to come, he can be my personal guest.
All right. Do you think he should be more active? A lot of people say, have used the word triangulation, that he has seemed to say Democrats want this, Republicans want this in this budget debate. Do you think he needs to get more involved, maybe take more of a leadership role?
Well, I think in some ways we all get sort of pigeonholed. You know, if I come on your program, somebody may have a perception of who I am. And I think that's part of the problem of Washington. Republicans, Democrats, those in the Tea Party, everybody's always accusing the other side of being in one place, so we never get to the middle because we all are what we're accused of being instead of trying to discuss it. But I think the president actually is a reasonable person, and I think he would and could come to an agreement on this. And I agree with you, it's not the numbers. We're now getting and retrenching into our partisan attack positions. But really the thing is that what's missing from the whole debate, as far as I'm concerned, is none of the proposals touch the problem because they're such a small amount. They're not enough to shut government down, but they're also not enough to fix the problem.
All right. Well, Senator Paul, we appreciate you. And just for clarity again, on Planned Parenthood, you do or don't have a problem with money, federal money, going towards Planned Parenthood?
I don't think we should spend federal money on abortion, but
well, it's not to pay for abortion.
Right,
it's not
but
for
even
abortion.
on that,
that's against the law.
Right, I know. But what's interesting on it is that a lot of these riders that we're talking about, Harry Reid has voted probably 10 times for the D.C. rider saying no abortions. And there is confusion. I mean, you can say, well, we give Planned Parenthood money and they use the private money for abortions and the public money not for abortion. So you can see how money's money and it gets spread around. And you could argue that some of your money is going to an organization that is doing abortions. So you can see where it's a controversial issue. So why not just take a controversial issue out? Let's fund the basic things of government that we all agree on. The Army, the roads, you know, things that we can all agree on, we should fund instead of funding very emotional things that we don't agree on.
All right. Well, Rand Paul, Senator Paul, we appreciate you taking some time with us today. Hopefully this will get worked out in the next 8 hours. So thank you so much.
I actually think it will.
You think it will? We're hearing that a lot.
I'm an optimist.
We will see.
I'm an optimist.
Well, we appreciate that. Thank you so much, sir. I do want to turn our viewers now quickly to Steny Hoyer, Democrat, who is taking questions right now. Let's take a quick listen in.
What kind of... Have you asked